Here we are at part 8. In part 8, the heart, page 678. Okay, and we just went over what's a P wave. A P wave is the depolarization up here at the SA node. When it's complete, that means the atrial tissues here on both sides are fully depolarized. Then we move on to the QRS wave. The QRS event is going to be the depolarization coming from the AV node, and you'll notice that we have the assistance now of the bundle of His, or these fibers coming down here from the AV node, and we're electrifying or depolarizing the bottom of the heart first. Okay, you'll also notice that in this red color over here that we are now repolarizing, and that's what's indicated down here in the legend, that depolarization is yellow, repolarization is red. So we're repolarizing up here while we're depolarizing here. So that's the QRS wave. Over here we've passed through the QRS wave, which means now the entire ventricular system is depolarized. Okay, and then we move on to the T wave. The T wave is an indication that we've begun repolarization here. Notice that up here in the AV, in the atrial regions, we're at rest completely. So here we have repolarization, and then in this next diagram we finished with the T wave. That means we're here proceeding to the next P wave, and now we have complete repolarization of event going on in the ventricular system. So that completes the project. Okay, that brings us over to these set of diagrams right here that I'm going to go over on page 679. And what I did here in the normal rhythm is I just sort of, how shall I say, tagged, annotated what's going on. So let's take a close look here and see if we can make out what's the situation. Here we have a P wave and a QRS. T over here, followed by then the next heartbeat. P, QRS, T, P, QRS, T. You can look at the relative heights of each of these waves, the T compared to the P. You can look at the distance between them. You can really get a sense of what's going on here in the normal pattern. And if you knew the rate at which all of this was going on, if you knew the time sequence down here, you'd be saying, okay, this is possibly 70, 72 beats per minute. Okay, so you would be looking for 72 QRS going on, P QRST going on in 1 minute. Okay, so P QRST and so on. This is a picture of our normal wave pattern. We come down to this diagram here in the B section, and we see something that completely lacks a P wave. There is no P wave. There is a QRS and a T, followed by a blank space here, nothing going on, and then we have QRST, no P, QRST, no P, QRST. You'll notice also by comparison to the top diagram up here that these peaks are happening at about half the speed of this. This is a 40 beat per minute wave pattern. This is a 70 beat per minute wave pattern. Okay, so things are really slow. What do we know about a really slow heartbeat? That's characteristic of the AV, not characteristic of the SA node in most people. And in fact, the P wave is gone. And so who creates the P wave? That is initiated by the SA node. So as we read through here in the junctional rhythm, it says the SA node is non-functional. This person might have had a myocardial infarction. There might have been tissue damage. It could be that the SA node was completely destroyed in that myocardial infarction. There was tissue death at that spot. And it says your P waves are absent, and the AV node paces the heart at somewhere probably closer to 40 than to 60 beats per minute. Okay, so this person has insufficient blood flow, insufficient probably pressure, and might not even be conscious under these conditions, depending on how much oxygen is getting to the brain, and the kidneys themselves might also be in trouble. Okay, so we need to help this person out with a pacemaker, and hopefully that will relieve the situation. Here we have another situation in the C diagram. Let's take a look here. We have this QRS wave ending. We have a P QRS beginning and ending right there. We have a P and then no QRS, no T. Okay, we have a P QRS P, nothing. P QRS P, nothing. P QRS. So what's missing here is that every other sinoatrial beat, we get nothing going on with the AV. And so the indication here is that there is some communication between the SA and the AV, but sometimes not. And so it indicates, since this has to move through actual tissue, it could be that that tissue has become injured from a myocardial infarction, a heart attack. Let's see what they say here. The second degree heart block, some P waves are not conducted to the AV node. Hence, more P than QRS waves are seen. Okay, and they're not discussing too much about it beyond that. And so I'm only offering you a hypothesis that the tissue between the SA node and the AV node has been partially damaged. So some signals getting through, some not. Over here we have complete disconnection with everything about a normal rate. We have ventricular fibrillation. Don't confuse that with atrial fibrillation, a much less serious situation than a ventricular fibrillation. Here we just have, if you look at the heart itself, something that appears to be like a little bag of worms or snakes or something looks like a bag of worms, and all the worms are trying to get out of the bag. So it's just a heart that is completely uncoordinated. They have a diagram here where we're going to be listening to heart sounds, and ultimately you need to palpate a little bit and understand what's going on with your patient. Right under here, you can't actually feel the first rib. There's a second rib here, and you're looking for the interspace here and here below the second rib. A nice feature on our anatomy, though, is right here on the sternum. The sternum has something called the sternal angle, and it leads to I should have it up here, I guess. It leads to the second rib on either side, that sternal angle at the bottom of the manubrium, and leading to the body of the sternum. Okay, so we find our second rib, we come down to the interspace, we go right next to the sternum, and right there is our aorta on the right side. Over here on the left side is our pulmonary valve. Okay, these are the two semilunar valves at the top of the heart. Then we come down here, we go to the fifth interspace, again right next to the sternum, and we find the place to put our stethoscope to listen to the tricuspid. Then over here, and also in the fifth interspace, but in the mid-clavicular line. So you find the mid-clavicular line come down that same fifth interspace, and now you're listening to the mitral valve. Okay? So that concludes that little detail.